Hello and welcome back to the New Dig Norfolk Gardener. Now today we want to do some succession plantings, and here this was where all our broad beans were, and at some point through the video I'll show you the harvest that we got from. We got a really lovely harvest, final harvest from our broad beans. We had been picking them every other day so that we could eat them fresh. Then we had our final harvests a couple of days ago, and they've been popped into the freezer so that we can enjoy those broad beans now for the rest of the year. So when we talk about succession plantings, it's when one planting is finished, in this case the broad beans, and the next plantings go in. This is the legume bed, and hence why we have peas and we have broad beans in this bed. And it's really good to follow these plants with brassicas. Now, it's often been thought that peas, broad beans, anything to the legume family will fix nitrogen into the soil, and that they do leave nitrogen behind after you have pulled the plants up. I'm no scientist, I can't tell you that that's exactly true, but what I do know, we've been following that sort of train of thought for the last few years, and we do always recognise that we get really nice brassicas when they follow the legumes. And actually, while we're here, let's just have a look at the peas, because you can see they're really starting to fill out now and getting ready for their harvest. Ooh, there it is with a pop. This is alderman. And that's the sort of peas we get. What have you got there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 peas filling that pod. And they're a really lovely size. I know that Mrs. W is getting really excited. I can see her behind the camera really smiling now. This is her favourite crop. This is the crop that actually never makes it into our house, really. Well, at least it wouldn't if I grew the really short varieties. But it's why I do grow the tall varieties, because they have, you can see there's a massive peas on there. We shall have an absolutely wonderful harvest of these, so some will actually make it into our freezer so that we can enjoy the peas for the rest of this year. I've dibbed my holes and I have allowed 2 feet in each direction. So in the rows 2 feet, and between the rows 2 feet. If you're a follower of our channel, you'll know that we sowed the seed for these sprouts toward the end of May, and we're heading towards the end of June now. You can see it's very ready to go in. It's got a nice root system, and we're going to plant them really deep, right up to its first set of leaves. Now, if you're not no dig like us, what you do need to do is ensure that the ground is really firm. All brassicas like firm ground. It means that you get tight buttons when you're planting in sprouts, and if you're actually planting out cabbages, then you get nice tight hearts. But because we're no dig, we don't disturb the soil, so it is really firm under there anyway. It's only the top layer where we spread the compost on, that's where it's quite thin. But when we go deep down into ground and into our soil, it's really quite firm. So that's those planted in, and as usual we want to give them a good drink of water to help them into their new homes. The other thing that we should be doing is that these should be covered immediately. As you know, we do have pigeons that like to come after our brassicas in particular, so that's one reason why we have to do it. But also we've been seeing for some time now the cabbage white butterfly that's been flying about, and if you leave these exposed, they will lay their eggs, which will then in turn turn into the caterpillars, and they will eat your brassicas. So on to the next succession planting. We need to go over to bed 1, and we are going to sow winter carrots. Here we are in bed 1. In here we grew our overwintering spring onions and our overwintering onions. I'm going to grow 4 rows here, and I'm going to be sowing a variety called Eskimo. At this time of the year it's a good time to sow your main crop carrot. It is, well, it's just over mid-June, but mid-June is a really good time. Anywhere almost from mid-June to the end of June will mean that they will then get big enough for you to be able to harvest during October, November. You know, they'll be of a good size. They've got plenty of time to grow on. But what I always find is that at this time of the year you can see everything is really quite dry. So I always look to water the drills first before I sow anything. So I'll just run a little bit of water down that drill. Now, it's always difficult to sow carrots thinly. So there may come a time when you actually need to thin them. And if you do need to thin them, always look to thin them in the early evening when the carrot fly is not about so much, and then take all of your thinnings away. If you're going to put them on the compost heap, ours is right up there. Get as far away from these that you're leaving behind as possible. And I think I said in the previous carrot video, you know, it's very difficult to sow these as thinly as you would ideally want them, so you probably are going to have to thin them, and it actually comes from experience. The way that you sow these, the more you do it, the better you're actually going to get at it. For the summer carrots, when you thin them, you sort of thin them to around about 1.5 centimeters where you can. But for these, it'll be more like 2.5 centimeters. They're going to get quite large heads as they grow larger. And as with those carrots, these will need covering too, because the second generation of carrot fly will arrive during August through September and into the early part of October. And if they get into those carrots, they'll all be full of holes and they'll be rendered unusable. So I look to cover my carrots all of the time, and my best advice to you is to do exactly the same. So that's the 4 rows sown, and all we need to do now is just cover over lightly. And at this time of the year they won't take too long to germinate. They have very long days, and it's also nice and warm. Now, I hope you've enjoyed this video today. Do let us know in the comments down below what carrots you're sowing, what varieties, when you're going to be doing them. Are you doing the same time as us, or are you going to be sowing yours a little bit later? Maybe because you're still waiting for some crops to come out of the ground. And equally with the sprouts that we sowed earlier, do let us know what varieties that you're sowing. And also later on in the year, when it comes to harvest, let us know how great your harvest is, because I know you'll be seeing ours. We shall film that. If you like this video, please give us a thumbs up, and if you like what we're doing and you'd like to subscribe, don't forget to hit that subscribe button down below. And we shall see you on the next video.